Hello there and welcome to the first ever Andy vlog. I may come up with a catchier name for it at some point, but I've been pondering, and as much as I do like Facebook for keeping in touch with people and keeping on top of what everyone's up to and whatnot, I feel it has kind of stifled my YouTube channel a little bit, because if I've got a small update I don't think it's worthy of a full video, then I'll just post something quick on Facebook, either a picture or a little bit of text. So I think what I'm going to start doing is compiling all the various things that I want to talk about or touch on, or things that I've been working on over the past week or two, and compile all those into one vlog, so you can get a nice big chunk of just listening to my delicious voice for a while, because I know people aren't getting enough of that, and it is something that the public yearn for. They've been crying out for more of it, so I'm about to dish it up piping hot right in front of you. First thing I'm going to touch on, because I'm pretty sure most of the people coming to my channel did so because of Warhammer Fantasy content, so I'm going to touch on the end times a little bit first, and explain why I haven't been particularly engaged in it. First of all, the price of keeping up with the end times, for somebody who doesn't have a vast budget and plays many other game systems, the price of entry is quite considerable for the end times. Each edition of the End Times is basically a full boxed game on its own, in terms of price. The book, and then that's only if you want the book and you don't even want any of the really amazing models that go with it. So what I'm kind of doing is just riding out the End Times a little bit and see where it ends, and then maybe seeing what happens with 9th edition, where I will definitely get the rulebook. Even if they completely butcher the 9th edition rules, I'll still get the book, because I want to see exactly what they do with it. I want to look at it for myself and see if it's something that I'm going to continue with, or whether they've changed it so much that I just stick with playing 8th, which is something that a few people have been saying they might do if the changes are as drastic as some quarters are reporting. I'm sure they won't be quite that insane. But some of the stuff in the End Times has been described as overpowered, and based on what I've seen I would agree that some of the magic seems to be getting a little bit ridiculous. But in the context of just this contained campaign and not spreading out into the main rules too much, then I can see it being acceptable. I know they've already moved the 50% Lords and Heroes thing into the main rules, but as long as they keep some of the crazier magic stuff out of it, I will be much happier, I think. Only the Nagash one has really applied to me in any kind of way, because I do have a Vampire Counts army. But I'm not so into Vampire Counts that I really felt the need to rush out and buy that model. If something huge for the Dwarves comes out, then there's a very high chance that I'll have money put aside and purchase that, just because I've been playing Dwarves for a really, really long time, and I have quite a big collection of models, some going back all the way to the 80s, some of them very, very new and recent. Some on the painting table right now, actually, like this unfinished Mr. Belagar Ironhammer. Hoping to get him finished soon. So yeah, any kind of dwarf release for the End Times would definitely tempt me in a little bit. It would be the bait that would potentially draw me in. But as of now, I'm just riding it out, seeing where it ends, following along with what's going on YouTube without making any kind of financial investment into it. I've been playing a fair bit of Warhammer on Universal Battle though. You may have seen I've been broadcasting some games live with Mr. Remington Steele. I think they've been quite entertaining. I don't know how many people actually stay through all 3.5 hours of a live game broadcast like that, but there have been 1 or 2 people, so well done to you for sticking it out. I know there's some people out there that just can't help but watch every minute of content that's put out there on YouTube pertaining to Warhammer, so those people are to be admired, I think. Next thing I'm going to talk about is the Mantic Open Day, and the highly professional coverage that I, as part of the Chilling Wargamers, provided for that event. I realise I haven't talked that much about Chilling Wargames on this channel, because I've always seen it as its own kind of separate entity. And because there isn't a lot of Warhammer Fantasy content on there necessarily, and that's kind of what my channel has been known for, there hasn't been too much crossover. But for anyone who just is completely oblivious as to what Chilling Wargames actually is, it's a sometimes weekly wargaming in miniatures Google Hangout discussion show, which covers a wide variety of game systems and miniature lines, and it's been going for quite a while. I've been the co-host for about, I think it's less than a year now, But in that time I feel like the show has become more professional. We've been building relationships with a lot of various companies, including Mantic, which is why I suggested that maybe we should do some professional coverage of their open day. And I didn't really have in mind how professional we were going to be. I actually think we surpassed what I went into it expecting, because I've always joked about Chilling Wargames being a professional outfit in the past, but I actually felt like we did ourselves proud and did a really good job. So you'll be able to see all the various interviews that we did on the Chilling Wargames channel from Mantic Open Day, along with a game of Dungeon Saga that we played, which is looking very, very good indeed. The game we played was very amusing, more so than probably any other demo of that game that's ever been done, and we did capture it on film as well, so that'll be on the Chilling Wargames channel. So that's very exciting for those of us that did back the Kickstarter, because we want to relive the glory days of the old games like Hero Quest, and mix that in with the modern, more streamlined rules that games have now quite often. Another thing that took place, Spud did get a Kings of War demo at Mantic Open Day. So we've both decided, based on the fact that we're both quite big fans of the rules system at the moment, to pick up armies. So I've got this upside down Goblin army. Of course this is just the box, but you can see you get a lot of goblins in there. Now I did have a couple of armies, of course, that would be compatible with Kings of War. I could have used my dwarfs, which are all GW models, or my Vampire Counts army is about 80, maybe 85% Mantic models to begin with. So that's practically a Kings of War army already. But they are on individual bases. So what I want to do is just get an army that's dedicated completely to Kings of War, because you don't take off individual dead models. You just wait until the unit has sustained enough damage and then it just entirely disappears. So I want to put my units on just big bases, a kind of diorama-like. So Goblin Spearmen, for instance, some of them in the back rank might be turned around just poking an elf corpse on the floor. So that's the kind of thing I want to do with them. Just to make it clear, this is the Kings of War army, the other armies are for Warhammer. But then I can still use my undead army for both. So if I want to give someone a game they don't have an army, it'll be easy to do that. One of the things I like about Kings of War, there are a lot of people who, when I'm trying to get them into Warhammer, on that path there are various roadblocks that they run into. One of them, of course, is the price of getting an army, which for Warhammer is very, very high nowadays if you want to buy current models. Another thing is the fact that the games can take over 3 hours a lot of the time. Sometimes they take all day. Now I don't mind that. I like a game that is just a big event in itself and takes all day. That's fine with me, but there are a lot of people who can't do that, either for physical health reasons. They can't play a game that takes all day, or they just don't have the attention span. They may just get bored easily. And then there's some people that just can't wrap their head around the rules, because Warhammer is quite a complex game. You have a lot of cross-referencing stats on tables and going through the rulebook to find what a special rule means, and only to find that it then leads you on a treasure hunt to 2 other special rules on totally different pages, or in different books in some cases. So it is quite difficult to enter into it with no kind of grounding in the Games Workshop rules systems. Obviously I've been playing them for a long time, so it comes quite naturally to me, but getting new people into it can be difficult. So I think Kings of War will be perfect for all those people that I just mentioned. So I'm going to try and do quite a lot of coverage on that alongside Warhammer. Not directly comparing, trying to say which one's better, just weighing up the pros and cons of each and deciding what kind of players you should be trying to encourage to get into a particular game. And whether, if you struggle to get people into Warhammer, maybe going into Kings of War would be a good move for you to broaden your player base, potential circle of opponents that you have, because that's what I'm hoping to achieve. Because a typical Kings of War game, as far as I'm aware, will only take about an hour. Whereas a Warhammer game of the same kind of size would take probably 3 times as long, I would say. If you're playing in a friendly environment. If you're playing in a tournament, you probably get things done a bit faster, and the players are at a high enough level to where they know exactly what they're doing, and you run through it a bit faster. It's definitely a much quicker game system, though. So I think for someone like me, it'll be a good complement to Warhammer rather than a replacement. I'm sure there are some people out there who exclusively will only play one or the other, but I think I can definitely live with both. and I think that's going to provide a nice variety of content on this channel. But while still talking about the Mantic Open Day, I think it was either 4 or 5 people that I didn't recognised me, which is always nice, makes you feel like a bit of a celebrity. They generally either know me from this YouTube channel, or in the case of a lot of Mantic fans, they'll know me from Chilling Wargamers episodes where we did live hangout shows during their various Kickstarters with their big hitter A-list games designers and so on. So it's always nice to feel a bit like a celebrity when you go to an event. If it gets to the point where I'm being swamped in the street and people are demanding my autograph, it might get a bit much, but I can't really see that happening in this community, in this industry. I'm sure it's not quite widespread enough for that to happen. Not yet, anyway. Now, back to Warhammer, because I've booked my plane ticket and registered for Adepticon in March, and I've entered the Warhammer Fantasy tournament, which is spread over about 1.5 days. Last time I didn't enter any tournaments because I felt like there's going to be so much to do there as it was, and a lot of people I'd never met before that I'd want to talk to, that I wouldn't want to dedicate time to a tournament. But what I did find was that there was a lot of times where I was just kind of wandering around while other people were in tournaments or getting game demos and such. So I think I'll have ample time, really, to partake in the Warhammer tournament and still be able to interact with everybody I want to and go around checking out all the latest releases from the various vendors there and such. Now, Adepticon last time was great, but I have a feeling it's going to be better this time around, because a lot of people I only briefly spoke to last time I know a lot better now through various online interactions, so I'll be able to speak with them at greater length. The people I did know quite well before, I know even better than I did, and a lot of people I didn't interact with at all because I just didn't know who they were, and they just kind of blended into the crowd. Now I do know them, so there's going to be more people to talk to, more to do, and the Warhammer tournament. And I've decided I'm going to take my dwarves to that, mainly because I don't want to be spending hours and hours worrying about casting magic and taking off piles of zombies and bringing them back on again. I think that would slow down my progress and maybe my games wouldn't actually finish. Dwarves are a really quick army. They don't generally have a lot of movement and no magic unless I take the anvil, which, 2 reasons I probably wouldn't. One, it's only a 2,000 point tournament and the anvil is horrendously overpriced as it is, so just putting it into the list will automatically reduce the level of competitiveness, and it's also all metal, so transporting that all the way around the world, I'm not sure I fancy the idea of that because it is quite heavy and part of it will probably break. Which is the reason I'm not taking my gyrocopter as well, because that thing, a slight gust of wind will take one of the blades off it. There's no way that's going with me. I will take some metal models, I'm sure, but none of the really big, hefty stuff. Also, I'm kind of glad I don't have any huge models that the airport security might think, maybe I should just break this in half to make sure there's nothing being smuggled into the country inside it. Fortunately, I don't have any models like that I would want to take, because I don't think that's a risk worth taking, honestly. I've heard horror stories about people's painting contest entries when being taken on planes, and the security have just, without a second thought, just taken it out of the box, just ripped it in half, put it back in the box. So I'm not willing to run that particular gauntlet. So with dwarves it's very infantry heavy list anyway. There's not really a lot they could do to damage them, even if they tried, to be honest. So I think they should be alright. Although saying that, I may have to borrow some super glue from somebody when I arrive, depending how that goes. Because there's no way I'm putting it in my checked luggage. Everyone I've spoken to has said, no, you definitely want to put it in your hand luggage. You don't want it just being thrown around onto the back of a plane, going around the world, possibly getting lost, be out my sight, changing between airports, all kinds of things that could go wrong. So I'm definitely going to try and get it in my hand luggage so I know exactly where it is at all times. Because I think that's going to be fun. I've never been to a real Warhammer tournament before. It's probably be my first one unless I go to another one before, which I can't really see happening. I'm not going to take an obscenely, ridiculously cheesy list because that's not really my style. People have been telling me that I need to take 2 organ guns though, and I do have a second one that's about half painted, so I may try and finish that at some point if I decide that that's a good way to go with it. Because on the one hand, yeah, I don't want a cheesy list, but on the other hand, is there any point going to a tournament, going halfway around the world, and then just having no chance whatsoever. And I think the organ guns look cool anyway, so at least one of them would have made it into the list, even if they were terrible, probably. So there's going to be plenty of updates on that over the next few months as I prepare that army. Now, something else I wanted to talk about, something I don't usually go in for. I don't usually go in for these group builds or monthly challenges that take place on YouTube, because my painting style is kind of random and scattered. I'll do a little bit of something, then push it to the back of the table, bring something else out, paint a bit of that, and then maybe not paint for 2 weeks, then go and finish something that I started 8 months ago. It's a bit like that. Whatever just happens to take me at any given time is just what I work on. But there are a couple of things that I could do from virtually start to finish this month for Ringo Simpkins' Advent Challenge, which some of you may be aware of. So I may go in for that. The two options that I have at the moment, I've got this Dwarf Limited Edition Metal Battle Standard Bearer, which was generously donated to me by Dan the Deathbringer Kane, who's going through a bit of a clear out in his house, and he knows that I have dwarves, so he very generously donated that to me. And one thing I really like about that model, when I'm painting a standard bearer, I don't want a big flat surface to paint, because I can't really freehand to save my life, and big flat surfaces aren't really the thing for me because of that. So with this particular model, it is incredibly detailed, so I think I could make that look really good. Washes will look amazing on that, I think, and if I put a little bit more effort after the wash, I think I could really push it to my highest standard, which isn't anywhere near professional standard, but it'll look quite good on the table, I think. The other option I have is this piece of artillery, heavy artillery for bolt action, which is actually a German artillery piece, but I'll be using it in the Belgian army because the Belgians don't have any models for heavy artillery, so their range isn't quite that varied yet. I have taken the crewmen, which you probably can't see very well in this video, and put Belgian heads on them though. And the base for it is a Warhammer movement tray, which I've chopped the edges off, and then I've used matchsticks to build a little fence there, holding back this earth, which I have milliputted on there. So when I put some sand over that, I think that'll look quite nice. To give you some idea how it's going to look, there you go, with the crew all stood around, I think it's going to look pretty sweet. So that's virtually going to be start to finish. There is a bit more I need to do assembly wise, and then I can actually start sanding it and painting it. So what do you guys think I should be working on for the Advent Challenge? Do you think I should do the Dwarf Battle Standard Bearer first, or the Belgian artillery piece? As far as when I need them done by, probably around about the same time. I may not have another game of bolt action for a couple of months, because, as some of you may know, Mr. Pezapoo is currently extremely busy with a new family arrival, and he was my #1 opponent, so it's going to be a couple of months before I get a game of that in, possibly. As far as the Dwarf Battle Standard, it's not particularly urgent, because I do already have a model that I use for that purpose. This will just be a nice thing to have, just to push the army up a little bit, painting wise, because it is a very detailed model. So whichever you think I should work on first, leave a little comment down below. One thing that I have done quite a number of videos on my channel, but I haven't really talked about at any great length, is the game Relics from Tor Gaming. You've probably seen some of my video showcases. I don't think I've actually put up any battle reports yet, because I've had technical difficulties with basically everyone I've tried. The last two I did with Mr. Stevie the Maniac. The bottom half of the battle was kind of cut off because of the positioning of the camera. I got like an overhead view, but you couldn't see one of the crucial combats because it was just out of shot. So I'm not sure about actually uploading that one. I may have to do some more battles and go with a more conventional camera setup. But that game is very, very fun. So much so that I joined the Rangers, which is the demo team for that game, and I've been doing some stuff down at Element Games / the Northwest Gaming Centre in Stockport. So anyone round about that way that wants a demo, let me know, and I will let you know in return when the next time that will be applicable will be. So it's one of those small games, but when Spud and I in particular got into it, we were really enjoying it and thought, you know, I think, not to big ourselves up or anything, but we do have some kind of influence over the community. We've got some amount of subscribers, so if we do a bit of coverage on this game, we can give it a little bit of a boost, because it is a small one. And I feel like we have helped it grow a little bit. and some of the moves that have been made within the company have helped as well. They've started going to more events, and that's really helped the player base. It's one of those games, it's quick, it's simple, it's easy to learn, there aren't too many really complicated rules involved in it. Once you've had a demo, you pretty much know how to play after that. The models are really tasty. Not that I'm suggesting eating them, I'm talking about tasty purely from an aesthetic standpoint. And I've been amassing quite a sizable Newham army. I've got a few of them over there on the airbrush station actually, just waiting to be transferred over here to the painting table so I can get a bit of paint on them. I've got one on the painting table already though. This little lady floating around, almost naked, casting magic spells. You will have seen videos of the tournaments I attended for Relics, because I did put those up. So you should probably check those out if you haven't already, because it is a fun game, it's a really nice community. The tournaments are always a lot of fun. It's a really laid back atmosphere. And the Facebook community is starting to thrive quite a bit over the last couple of months as the community expands. So it's definitely one for the future, I would say. So if you're not jumping into it now, definitely keep your eye on it, because it is something I think could get a lot bigger. Another thing I'm going to talk about a little bit is this recent purchase I made, which is a delicious dice bag from the Dice Bag Lady with the Chilling Wargamers logo on it, full of dice in various delicious shades of orange, some white ones in there, and a couple of artillery dice you can see in the corner there. Can't go anywhere without them. You can fit a really hefty amount of dice in this. This is all the dice I would ever need for Warhammer and more, and it's not even half filled it really. I did a video testing the capacity of the bag, so you can go and check that out, and you would never need that many dice for one game. So even if you use really big chunky dice, you'll still fit plenty in there. The reason I'm talking about this is because regarding small businesses in this industry and in this community, we've all seen and heard the cases of the businesses that have sprung up by these people that claim to have really strong passion for the community and for the hobby. But as soon as the business either isn't going as well as they expected, or they made a bit of money and now they're on a bit of a downturn, they just completely disappear, and you never hear from them in the community again. So the passion was obviously just a money-making front. But you can rest assured that's definitely not the case with the Dice Bag Lady, because if she was going to disappear at the first roadblock, then she would have been long gone by now. Hand-making dice bags, hand-crocheting them, there isn't an awful lot, if any, machinery involved in this. It's a hand process. You can't make vast amounts of money doing that, because it takes a long time to make those bags. This is not a way to get rich. And also, if you've been following along on her Facebook or Twitter, then you'll see that she had some quite serious hand and wrist issues recently, which were hampering her work quite considerably for the last few months. So if she was going to disappear, it's safe to say she definitely would have done by now. But she's been around the hobby for a long time, been around the community, right in there interacting, going to events. She used to go to a lot of Warhammer tournaments. I think she's getting into Saga quite a bit now. So you can put your faith in some small businesses. I like to think you should give them all the benefit of the doubt, but I know some people feel like they've been burned over the years. There are some out there that you can definitely trust, even though they are small. They are going to stick around, and I would put the Dice Bag Lady on that list. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about on this episode. If you've got anything you want to ask me, then drop questions in below. If you've got any topics you want me to talk about, you want to hear my thoughts on anything, let me know in the comments as well, and I'll endeavour to discuss those points in the next episode. I don't know exactly how often the episodes will be. They may be once a week, but it's possible that not enough will happen in a week to actually warrant an entire video. Maybe I'll just do shorter ones on those occasions, or maybe I'll just leave it until 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes. But let me know if you think this is good. You like hearing my voice more. You want more of me. You just can't get enough of my juicy, red-hot content all over YouTube, in your face. And I'll see you next time. Toodaloo!